If you've ever pushed a cheap fork into hard clay and watched a tine bend sideways, you know a garden fork isn't just a garden fork. The right one turns compost, aerates soil, and lifts potatoes without complaint. The wrong one snaps at the socket the first time it meets a root. Today we're ranking 7 actual garden forks you can buy right now, worst to best, based on tine material, handle build, and what actually happens when you lean on them. Number 7 is the Berry and Bird Garden Digging Fork, the 37.4-inch stainless steel model with a D-grip handle. The head is made from polished stainless steel, which resists rust and sheds soil more easily than plain carbon steel, so you spend less time scraping mud off the tines after a session. The handle is FSC-certified ash wood, shaped into an ergonomic D-grip that keeps your wrist in a more neutral position than a straight pole handle would. For raised beds, container gardens, or turning over already loose soil, this fork does the job cleanly, and the stainless finish means it can sit outside without rusting, the way an untreated carbon steel head would. Here's where it drops to the bottom of the list, though. At 37.4 inches overall, this is one of the shorter forks in this lineup, which means taller gardeners are going to be bending further at the waist with every scoop, and that adds up over a full afternoon of digging. It's also a newer brand entering a category dominated by companies that have been forging steel tools for a century or more, so while the stainless construction looks and reads well on paper, it doesn't have the same multi-generation track record as some of the names further up this list. Stainless steel is also inherently a bit softer than hardened carbon steel, which is why you won't see many stainless forks marketed specifically for breaking up heavy clay or rocky ground. My honest take? This is a fine, affordable pick if your garden is raised beds, containers, or soil that's already been worked before. If you're dealing with compacted clay, tree roots, or ground that hasn't been touched in years, this isn't the fork that's going to survive that fight. It's a light-duty tool wearing a heavy-duty finish. Number 6 is the Truper 30293 Spading Fork, the classic wood-handled version. This one has a 4-tine clear-coated gray steel head with diamond-pointed tines, mounted on a 30-inch North American ash handle with a D-grip for control. It's part of Truper's True Tough line, which comes with a 10-year replacement warranty, so the company is standing behind the build even at this price point. Ash is a genuinely strong wood. It's the same material used in axe handles and baseball bats, so it can absorb the shock of hitting a rock without snapping outright the way a cheaper wood might. The catch is the handle length and the material itself. At 30 inches, this is noticeably shorter than most of the forks on this list, which were built more with taller users and full-body leverage in mind, so you'll be crouching lower to get real digging force behind it. And while ash is tough, it's still wood, which means it's more exposed to the freeze-thaw cycle, humidity, and general drying out over years of outdoor storage than the fiberglass or all-steel builds we'll get to later in this list. A wood handle left in a damp shed for a few winters is simply more likely to develop hairline cracks than a fiberglass one exposed to the same conditions. Where this fork earns its spot is as a genuinely capable, no-frills tool for someone who wants a traditional feel and doesn't mind a shorter reach. It's a fair pick for smaller garden beds, container prep, or general soil turning where you're not swinging it overhead all day. Just don't expect it to have the same lifespan as the fiberglass and forged carbon steel options ranked above it, and store it somewhere dry if you want that ash handle to last. Number 5 is the True Temper 2812-200, a 4-tine forged spading fork built by a company that's been making American garden tools since the 1800s. The head uses 4 forged, diamond-pointed steel tines, and forging is the manufacturing detail that actually matters here. It means the steel is shaped under pressure into a single dense piece rather than just stamped and bent, which generally makes for a stronger tine at the point where forks tend to fail first. It's mounted on a 30-inch hardwood handle with a poly D-grip, and True Temper markets it specifically for digging, turning, and aerating soil in garden beds, which lines up with what this design is actually good at. The catch is that True Temper doesn't publish the same long warranty terms that some of the competitors on this list do, so if a tine does eventually bend under serious clay or rock, you're likely looking at a replacement rather than a repair covered by the manufacturer. And like the Truper fork we just covered, the 30-inch handle and hardwood construction mean a shorter reach and a material that needs to stay dry to hold up over the long haul. This is also a plain steel head rather than stainless, so without some basic maintenance, hosing it off and keeping it out of standing water, it can start to show surface rust faster than the stainless options further up this list. Overall, this is a dependable, mid-tier fork from a brand with real manufacturing history behind it. It's not flashy, it doesn't have an oversized ergonomic handle or a lifetime guarantee, but forged tines at this price point are genuinely hard to beat if you just want something that works and don't need the extras. Before we get to the top half of this list, here's a quick tease. The fork that finishes at number 1 ditches the D handle completely for a shape you've probably never even held, and it's the single biggest reason it beat out a company that's been forging tools in England since 1760. We'll get there. Number 4 moves us to the fiberglass version of the same brand we just covered, the Truper True Pro 4-tine spading fork, model BJ4F, also listed as $32.99. And I want to flag this clearly. Truper sells a nearly identical-looking spading fork with a wood handle under model 30293, which is the fork we ranked at number 9. This is a completely different handle material, so if you're shopping by name alone, double-check you're looking at the fiberglass BJ4F 3299 listing before you buy. This version uses a 14-gauge steel blade, about 7 inches wide across the tines, mounted on a 30-inch yellow fiberglass D handle. According to the retailer spec sheet, the reinforced resin insert connecting the head to the handle is rated to handle up to 400 pounds of force in dynamic load testing, which is the kind of number that actually matters if you're the type of gardener who steps down hard on the fork with your full body weight to break into compacted ground. It also carries a limited lifetime warranty, which is a real step up from the plain 10-year terms on the wood-handled version. The catch is that you're still working with a 30-inch handle, the same shorter length as the wood version, so the fiberglass upgrade solves the rot and cracking problem, but doesn't solve the reach problem for taller gardeners. Fiberglass is also a bit heavier per inch than a comparable wood handle, so this fork will feel slightly more substantial in hand, which some people like and others find tiring over a long digging session. If you like the idea of the Truper 30293, but want a handle that won't dry out or crack in a shed over the winters, this fiberglass version is the smarter buy of the two, and the 400-pound load rating backs up that extra durability with an actual number instead of just marketing language. Number 3 is the Bully Tools spading fork with D-grip, a 44-inch fiberglass-handled fork that's 100% made in the USA, assembled in Steubenville, Ohio. According to Bully Tools, this spading fork is built from 12-gauge steel, which is noticeably thicker than the steel gauge used on a lot of budget forks, and thicker gauge steel generally means more resistance to bending when the tines hit a root or a rock instead of soft dirt. The fiberglass handle carries a poly D-grip for leverage, and at 44 inches overall, this gives you a real length advantage over the two Truper models and the True Temper fork we just covered, all of which sat around 30 inches. That extra foot of handle means less bending at the waist and more leverage when you're pushing the tines into the ground. The catch here is availability of information rather than the tool itself. Bully Tools doesn't publish the same specific numeric warranty length or load rating that some competitors do, so while the company backs its tools with a build quality message, I'd rather flag that as branding language than state it as a fixed guarantee term the way I can with the Truper or Spear and Jackson forks. It's also worth knowing Bully Tools sells a completely different product, a 5-tine broad fork with a 56-inch handle, under a similar sounding name, so make sure the listing you're buying says spading fork with the D-grip, not broad fork. For the price, this is a genuinely strong American-made option with a real length and gauge advantage over the entries below it. If domestic manufacturing matters to you and you want a longer handle without stepping up to the premium options at the top of this list, this is where I'd point you. Number 2 is the Spear and Jackson Neverbend Professional Digging Fork, and this is where we start talking about tools built for genuinely tough ground rather than average garden soil. The head is one solid piece of forged carbon steel, including the socket, which is riveted for extra strength, and it's hammer finished with a powder coating that resists rust, scratches, humidity, and the alkalis found in soil. The shaft is weatherproofed hardwood with a metal YD-shaped handle and a wooden crosspiece, and Spear and Jackson states this fork exceeds the BS 3388 load test, a recognized British standard for hand tool strength. It's backed by a 10-year guarantee, and the head measures roughly 11.4 by 7.5 inches with an overall length just under 40 inches. According to independent testing from HGTV, a fork matching this build was one of the strongest performers they tested in tough, compacted clay, which is exactly the scenario a fork like this is designed for. That same review noted the weight, at 5.4 pounds, as noticeably heavier than many other forks tested, which made it more tiring for everyday, lighter tasks. That's a fair trade-off to understand going in. The extra mass in that forged head is part of what gives it the strength to push through compacted clay, but it also means your arms are working harder on a routine task like turning loose compost. So the catch isn't a durability issue, it's a fatigue issue. If your garden is genuinely difficult ground, roots, clay, rocky soil, this fork's strength rating and forged construction make it one of the best matches on this list. If you're mostly doing light, routine digging in soil that's already been worked, the extra weight might make lighter tools like the Fiskars or the Bully Tools fork more comfortable for regular use. Number 1, the best garden fork on this list is the Radius Garden 203 PRO stainless steel digging fork. And the reason it takes the top spot comes down to one single design decision. Instead of a D handle, Radius Garden built this fork with what they call a natural radius O handle, an oversized loop grip that the company states provides 4 times the gripping surface of a traditional D handle. In practice, that means your whole hand wraps around the grip, instead of just your fingers curling into a small D-shaped gap, which spreads the load across your palm and reduces the point pressure that causes hand fatigue on a long digging session. The blade is stainless steel, 11.5 inches long and 7 inches wide, mounted on a resin-encased carbon steel shaft for a total length of 42.5 inches, and the whole tool weighs about 5 pounds 2 ounces. It also includes an extra wide forward step, so you get more stable footing when you're pushing the tines down with your boot, and it's backed by a lifetime warranty in the continental US, the strongest guarantee on this entire list. The one honest catch is the same trade-off we flagged with the stainless Spear and Jackson fork earlier. Stainless steel is more rust-resistant, but somewhat less strong than the forged carbon steel heads on the Neverbend models. And that big O handle, while genuinely more comfortable for extended use, is bulkier to store on a wall hook or in a crowded shed than a slim D handle or a straight Y grip. But for the vast majority of home gardeners, this is the fork that gets the most things right at once. Real ergonomic innovation that isn't just marketing language, a lifetime warranty that shows real confidence from the manufacturer, and a design the company built specifically with comfort in mind for anyone dealing with hand or wrist strain. If you only buy one garden fork this year, this is the one I'd point you to. So let's break this down by what you actually need. If you've got raised beds or soil that's already worked, the Berry & Bird or the Truper 30293 will get the job done without overspending. If you want a longer handle and American manufacturing without paying premium prices, go with the Bully Tools spading fork. If wrist and back comfort matter most, the Fiskars is the sweet spot. If you're fighting genuinely compacted clay or rocky ground, the 2 Neverbend forks from Spear and Jackson are built for exactly that fight. And if you want the single most comfortable, best supported fork on this entire list, and you're only buying one, the Radius Garden 203 Pro is the one to get. All 7 links are in the description below, numbered to match this list, so you can check current pricing and availability before you buy. If this helped you pick the right fork, drop a like, subscribe for more honest gardening tool breakdowns, and let me know in the comments what you're digging up this season.